There's a quiet thief that sneaks into the lives of millions of people over 50. It doesn't rob money or possessions, but it steals something far more precious: your ability to move freely, to hug without hesitation, to climb stairs without wincing, to rise each morning without a battle against stiffness. Arthritis pain and the joint stiffness that comes with it is often dismissed as just getting older. But what if I told you that this thief can be slowed, sometimes even pushed back, with something as simple and natural as the right kind of fat? Yes, fat. The kind your body's crying out for, but that most of us don't get nearly enough of. I'm Dr. Brian, and welcome to Channel Wellness Blueprint Over 50. Today we're uncovering how omega-3 fatty acids can fight joint pain, ease inflammation, and truly change your life. When you think of arthritis, the first word that likely comes to mind is pain. But pain is really just the alarm bell. The true culprit behind that alarm is something hidden: inflammation. Imagine a small campfire inside your joints. At first, the fire is tiny, just a flicker of discomfort. But when the body's immune system mistakenly fans the flames, thinking it needs to attack and defend, you're left with swelling, heat, and stiffness that doesn't just fade away. That's what happens in rheumatoid arthritis, where the immune system is confused, and even in osteoarthritis, where wear and tear ignites an inflammatory response. Now here's where omega-3s come in like skilled firefighters. These special fats, found richly in fatty fish like salmon and mackerel, in flax seeds and in walnuts, don't just provide energy. They step directly into the fire and calm it down. Scientists call them EPA and DHA, but I prefer to call them nature's peacekeepers. They work by reducing the production of compounds, prostaglandins and cytokines, that are like the fuel logs keeping the fire roaring. Without so much fuel, the flames settle, and when the flames settle, the pain signals quiet down. I think about one of my longtime patients, Margaret, who came to me in her early 60s. She had spent years with rheumatoid arthritis, the kind that made her hands swell like they were wearing invisible gloves. She told me, "Dr. Brian, mornings are my enemy." Every day began with stiffness so severe it took her nearly an hour just to make a cup of tea. We talked about medication, yes, but also about the power of food. Margaret began adding salmon twice a week, sprinkled flaxseed onto her morning oatmeal, and even swapped her afternoon cookies for a handful of walnuts. It wasn't overnight, but within 3 months, she noticed something surprising. Her mornings had changed. Instead of dreading that first hour, she was moving sooner, easier. She said, "It feels like my joints are breathing again." That's the quiet work of omega-3s, cooling the fire inside. This isn't just anecdote. In a landmark study published in the journal Arthritis and Rheumatology, people who regularly consumed omega-3 fatty acids showed a significant reduction in the number of tender joints and reported less morning stiffness compared to those who did not. Researchers even found that some participants were able to reduce their reliance on pain medication. That's profound because it means omega-3s aren't just adding comfort. They may help people reclaim independence from constant pills. To put it in everyday terms, think of inflammation like rust spreading on a bicycle chain. The more it spreads, the harder it becomes to pedal. Omega-3s act like a gentle oil, not just loosening the chain, but preventing more rust from forming. By lowering inflammation at its root, they help restore smoother motion and reduce the grinding pain that makes simple tasks feel like monumental challenges. Of course, the question I hear most often is, does it really work, or is it just hype? And I answer this: it works best when it's part of a lifestyle, not a single pill. Omega-3s can be taken as supplements, yes, but when paired with real foods and a mindful approach to diet, they weave themselves into the very fabric of your cell membranes. They become part of the body's defense system, always ready to step in when inflammation tries to flare. I once met a gentleman, Robert, a retired school teacher who had osteoarthritis in his knees, so bad he joked he could predict the weather better than the news channel. After starting on omega-3 supplements, he wasn't much of a fish eater. He noticed over time that those stormy days no longer knocked him out with pain. It wasn't that the arthritis vanished, but the intensity softened. He told me, "I feel like I got a piece of my freedom back." And isn't that what we all want? Not perfection, but freedom. The freedom to walk to the park with your grandchild, to cook a meal without wincing every time you stir, to wake up and not dread the day ahead. This is the power of calming inflammation. By reducing the very sparks that keep the pain alive, omega-3s help transform arthritis from a life-stealing burden into something more manageable. It's not about ignoring modern medicine, it's about giving your body an ally, a natural support that works alongside other treatments to bring you relief. If pain is the alarm bell and inflammation the fire, then omega-3s are your quiet firefighters, restoring calm, protecting the structure of your joints, and giving you back the small joys that arthritis tries to steal. For those over 50 whose bodies are already navigating so many changes, this simple addition can mean the difference between enduring life and truly living it. If inflammation is the fire that burns inside the joints, then friction is the slow grinding that wears them down day by day. To understand this, picture the hinges of a door. When the hinges are well oiled, the door glides open smoothly without a squeak. But when the oil dries up, every push is met with resistance, creaks, and eventually damage. Your joints work the same way. Inside each one is a substance called synovial fluid, which acts like nature's WD-40. It reduces friction, cushions impact, and allows bones to move against each other with ease. In arthritis, especially osteoarthritis, that fluid thins out or becomes less effective. The cartilage, the smooth, rubbery cushion between bones, also begins to wear down. What's left is bone rubbing against bone, producing pain, stiffness, and sometimes even a grinding sound known as crepitus. It's no wonder so many people describe their joints as creaky or rusty. Without lubrication, every movement feels like effort. Now, omega-3s step in here as well, not just calming the fire of inflammation, but also nourishing the very oil that keeps your joints moving. When you eat fatty fish or take omega-3 supplements, these fats are absorbed into your cell membranes, making them more flexible and fluid. Imagine the difference between a brittle, dry sponge and a soft, hydrated one. Omega-3s help your cells stay supple, which in turn helps maintain the quality of synovial fluid. With healthier joint fluid, friction decreases and motion feels smoother. Let me tell you about Helen, a 72-year-old grandmother who adored gardening. She once told me her roses were her therapy, but arthritis in her hips and knees had nearly forced her to give up the hobby she loved most. Every time she bent to plant or pulled weeds, her joints protested. We adjusted her overall care, and I suggested she try boosting her omega-3 intake. She wasn't keen on fish, so she opted for a high-quality supplement and added ground flaxseed to her yogurt. Months later, she invited me to see her garden. There she was, kneeling with a small cushion under her knees, pruning happily. She said, "It doesn't hurt the way it used to. I can stay out here longer without paying for it later." That's what improved lubrication can look like. Not just better joints, but the return of cherished activities. On a biological level, omega-3s also slow down enzymes that break down cartilage. Cartilage is like the shock absorber in a car. It cushions and protects. When it deteriorates, every bump in the road is felt more harshly. By protecting cartilage, omega-3s help extend the lifespan of your joints, so you don't feel every step like a jolt. Think of this in terms of quality of life. When your joints are well lubricated, you don't hesitate as much before standing, climbing stairs, or bending down. Movement becomes less of a chore and more of a joy. That smoothness translates into confidence. And confidence matters because once someone fears pain, they often stop moving. Unfortunately, the less you move, the more joints stiffen, and a vicious cycle begins. Omega-3s can help interrupt that cycle, making motion less painful and encouraging you to stay active. One clinical trial from the British Journal of Nutrition found that older adults who consumed omega-3 supplements reported not only less pain, but also measurable improvements in joint function tests, like walking speed and grip strength. This tells us that the benefits go beyond pain relief. They directly impact how well you can move through the world. I remember another patient, George, who described his knees as sandpaper on sandpaper. Walking across his living room felt like dragging a heavy weight. After adding more omega-3s into his diet, he returned a few months later and said something I'll never forget. "It feels like someone greased my gears." That simple phrase captured exactly what was happening inside his body. His movements weren't perfect, but they were smoother, less resistant, more natural. This restoration of lubrication and function isn't just about bones and joints. It's about reclaiming the everyday freedoms arthritis tries to take away. Kneeling in the garden, walking to the store, climbing into a grandchild's treehouse fort without wincing. The ability to move comfortably is the foundation of independence, and omega-3s provide a way to protect and nurture that foundation. When I look at my patients who embrace this change, I don't just see improved lab results or fewer complaints of pain. I see people returning to life, moving with less fear, and stepping more fully into the activities that bring them joy. For someone over 50, this can be the difference between sitting on the sidelines and dancing, literally or figuratively, with freedom again. When we talk about arthritis, most people think only of the joints, the swollen fingers, the stiff knees, the aching back. But what many don't realize is that arthritis doesn't just live in the body, it takes up residence in the mind as well. Chronic pain is exhausting. It chips away at energy, hope, and even identity. Over time, the weariness of constant discomfort can transform into frustration, loneliness, and depression. I've often said that arthritis is as much an emotional disease as it is a physical one. Now here's where omega-3 surprises. Beyond soothing inflammation and helping joints glide more smoothly, these fatty acids are also powerful allies for the brain. You see, your brain is nearly 60% fat, and much of that is made up of the very omega-3s found in salmon, sardines, and walnuts. Without enough of these fats, your brain's chemistry begins to suffer, like a symphony missing key instruments. The result can be mood swings, foggy thinking, or a heavy sense of sadness. One of my patients, Eleanor, illustrates this beautifully. In her late 60s, she struggled with osteoarthritis in her hands. But what troubled her most was not the pain, it was the loss of joy. She confided, "Dr. Brian, I feel like arthritis stole more than my movement. It stole my smile." We discussed many strategies, but one simple step was adding omega-3s through both food and supplements. Over several months, her hands grew less stiff, but something else happened. Her voice lightened. She laughed more in appointments. She began taking walks with a neighbor again. She said, "It's like a cloud lifted." That's the invisible gift omega-3s can offer. The science supports Eleanor's experience. Studies published in journals such as Translational Psychiatry have shown that omega-3s, particularly EPA and DHA, play a key role in regulating neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine. Think of serotonin as your brain's contentment chemical and dopamine as your motivation spark. When these are balanced, you feel steadier, brighter, more engaged with life. But chronic inflammation, which is present in arthritis, can disrupt this delicate balance, increasing the risk of depression. By lowering inflammation and supplying the raw materials your brain needs, omega-3s act almost like a tune-up for your emotional engine. And let's not forget the social ripple effect. When pain and stiffness dominate, people often withdraw. They cancel social visits, avoid hobbies, and limit movement. Not just because of the physical challenge, but also because of embarrassment or fatigue. This isolation deepens emotional suffering. Yet when omega-3s reduce pain and lift mood, the door opens again to connection. Someone who was once stuck at home may feel more confident to join a book club, attend church, or take a grandchild to the park. These moments of connection are as vital to health as any pill. I recall Robert, the retired school teacher I mentioned earlier, who struggled with knee pain so severe he said he could predict the weather. After omega-3s helped ease his physical discomfort, he also noticed he wasn't as irritable. His wife even pulled me aside one day and whispered with a smile, "Thank you for giving me my husband back." That's the true power of this nutrient. It heals relationships as much as it heals joints. It's important to say this clearly. Omega-3s are not magic pills. They don't erase every trace of arthritis or instantly cure depression, but they provide a foundation, a steady undercurrent of support for both body and mind. They give your cells, your brain, and your joints the nourishment they need to function closer to the way they were designed to. When combined with movement, community, and self-care, they create a synergy that restores not only mobility, but also the joy of living. For someone over 50, this means more than just feeling better physically. It means waking up without dread, feeling emotionally lighter, and re-engaging with life. It means laughing more often, moving with greater confidence, and rediscovering passions thought lost to pain. That could be painting, gardening, volunteering, or simply holding the hand of someone you love without wincing. This is why I see omega-3s not only as joint protectors, but as life enhancers. They soften the edges of pain while brightening the canvas of daily living. And in the battle against arthritis, both matter equally. Because health is not just about how long you live, it's about how fully you live, with energy, peace, and joy. So here's the truth. Arthritis doesn't have to be the thief that steals your freedom, your joy, or your peace of mind. By embracing omega-3s, whether through salmon on your plate, walnuts in your snack bowl, or a trusted supplement, you give your body tools to calm inflammation, smooth movement, ease pain, and even lift your spirits. I've seen it change lives in my patients, and it can change yours too. Remember, you're never too old to take back control of your health. If this message spoke to you, like, share, subscribe, and share your own story in the comments.